Hey babes, I'm super excited just to share with you a little bit from this intuitive eating workbook I got. So, if you saw some of my posts, I've been listening to intuitive eating book. It is free on Audible. If you have Audible, you don't have to use any of your credits. But if you're like me, you have like 7 credits anyway, because I'm kind of a slow listener and reader. No shame, no shame. But you guys, part of the reason why I'm loving this book is because do you know when you get like so overwhelmed with like all of the things you're getting bombarded with, do this, don't do this, don't eat this, don't have this, don't have this. I mean, I've been in this healthy space for over a decade, and so I've gathered like a lot of information about eating right, when to eat, why to eat this, why not to eat that. And so I've taken all those little pieces of information and made them work for me and like built them into my lifestyle, but I still have created a lot of rigidity, is that a right word? Rigidness around some of my eating habits. Or as you guys have seen, sometimes I, like what I've been saying the last couple months, is I only drink on Saturdays. But what happens when we have, like, what did we do last weekend? I think we went to Soshi on Friday. So it's a Mexican restaurant that's local here. And, there's like margaritas. So I'm like, no, I can't have it because it's not Saturday. That's like a mindset thing that you got to work on. So when my friend and I, Carol, who's in this group also, she's one of my morning workout friends, and we were talking about eating, and like we're constantly saying, I need to get control of my eating. I need to get control of my eating. Why do I fall off? Why do I do this? Why do I do this? She's like, well, someone recommended this book to me called Intuitive Eating. And I'm like, and she was telling me about it. And I'm like, that's exactly what I need to listen to, because it's about getting back to the basics and the simplicity of eating right and paying attention to our bodies. And that's one thing that I have definitely neglected. So the biggest thing I said is that I overeat, and I know I overeat. But why do I overeat? So if you have these barriers or these things that you're struggling with, I want you to take a minute to think about, why do you do that? Why do you go to the Starbucks every single day or every other day or whatever it looks like? Again, I'm not blaming or shaming or judging anybody. It's something to think about. It's called mindfulness. When you're unaware of what you're doing, that's when the things escalate, and that's a car. Escalate. And then you get to this point where you're like, oh my God, I haven't weighed myself in 3 months because I don't want to see what the number on the scale is, or you're chasing feelings, whatever, that's cool too. But my point is, sometimes we get to this point where we're like, whoa, how did I get here? And it's because we're unaware and we're not paying attention to those little cues that we have. So, all that said, if this is something that you think would help you and not confuse you more, I suggest you do this. Again, I have taken all of the information I've learned. I've done Weight Watchers, I've done keto, I've done all of the things, and I learned something from every one of them. Learned something to do or learned something that I shouldn't do. So all of those things I've taken, and again, it's kind of like taking a breath and taking getting away from the overwhelm. So part of the reason too why I switched to the Body Beast workout recently was because I needed something basic. I needed something that wasn't 3 compound moves in one, flipping around, doing all these weird things. I just needed simple, basic, get in, get out. I don't have to overthink this. It's not overcomplicated. And that's kind of how I want to get back to my eating. So again, taking principles that you've learned, again, Ultimate Portion Fix, 2B Mindset are amazing. If you talk to any nutritionist, they're going to tell you to get on this exact same program. They probably won't say these two because, again, they either, have certain contractual obligations or they don't understand it enough. There is nothing in UPF, there is nothing in 2B Mindset that will steer you in the wrong way. What steers us in the wrong way is some of the habits that we create around the system. So let me get to exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. So I got this workbook. I got it yesterday. And again, I wanted to be in a space where I could actually think about how I wanted to answer. So I want you guys to indulge with me a little bit here and do this practice, because I found this to be super cool and helpful. And I just love learning about stuff that I like to learn about. So if I get to the page here, I'll tell you what I did today, and I encourage you to do this too. So what you'll need to do, this is you're going to need to get a piece of paper and a pen. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be big. It can be whatever size, just big enough for you to write in, index card, post-it, whatever. So I want you to do that. And if you are actually doing it while you're watching this video, which I encourage you to, I want you to go get your piece of paper right now. So pause the video, go get your piece of paper, go grab a pen, something you like to write with, and then come back. So you can pause and come back. All right. Hopefully you've paused. Hopefully you're back. Okay, now what I want you to do, and this is exactly what I did today, You're going to first of all, you're just going to write your name. You can sign it. You can write, just write out your name and what are not cursive? I can't think of the word. Non-cursive. You can do either. I did both just because I wanted to do both. So I wrote my name, I printed my name, and then I signed my name. Again, use your dominant hand. Most of us are right-handed, some of us are left-handed, but you want to use your dominant hand, okay? So I want you to do that. Pause the video and come back. All right, so how did that feel in your hand? Like, how did you feel writing out your name? Did it feel normal, simple, comfortable? Probably. You do it all the time. You write with your right hand, you write with your left hand, whatever your dominant hand is. Okay, now I want you to, again, pause the video here in just a minute. Let me give you some instructions. So I want you to now switch hands. Obviously, you can probably see what's coming here. But while you switch hands, really think about how it feels. How do you feel in the moment? Pay attention to just how long it takes you, and take your time. You can take your time. Do whatever you need to do this, but go ahead and pause. But you're going to use your non-dominant hand. For me, it was my left hand, and I want you to write your name. You can just sign it, you can just print it, you can do both, whatever you want, but I want you to write your name. So pause and come back. Okay, so now that you're back, hopefully you paused, hopefully you're playing along. You better freaking do it or I will come find you. Okay, so obviously we know most likely your non-dominant hand was not comfortable, right? Unless you're ambidextrous and you're just super cool like that. But for me, it was very uncomfortable, very awkward. I will tell you, this is what mine looked like. Very messy. Hopefully you could see that. It felt like a grade schooler's handwriting. So think about that. So the next question is, you're looking at your two signatures, and is there a quality difference between the two? Most likely, yes. You're going to find a quality difference. And then you want to talk about that and think about that. So obviously you don't really have anybody to talk to right now about this, and you don't have a workbook to write in, but just really think about, how did that make you feel? Like, one was very natural, one was very comfortable, one was not. How did that feel for you? How did it feel to be in that moment? And then the next question they ask is like, how did you feel holding the pen when you were using your non-dominant hand? So for me, from my left hand, it's asking you the question, like, how did it feel physically when you were writing? Like, I noticed when I printed my name, it was a little easier. When I went to sign my name, I did not have the muscle memory down to understand how to even write in cursive with my left hand. It was such a weird feeling. So weird. So think about that for yourself. So take some time, think about, how did it feel when you wrote with your non-dominant hand? For me, it felt very awkward and it felt very unnatural. It did. I had to think about it. I had to think about every little move I made, and it was just weird. It just felt weird. The next step is to think about, what were your thoughts when you were writing? So as you were writing with your non-dominant hand and with your dominant hand, like, how did you feel? So your non-dominant hand, you might have felt a little frustrated. Like, for me, it was frustrating to write, because I'm like, I know how to do this. I know how to spell it, but I could not physically get it to come out in like a legible way. Like, it was kind of frustrating. So for me, I wrote, my handwriting does look like a first grader's, but I gave myself grace because I never write with my left hand. I also thought about some muscle memory. So in the moment as I was writing, I'm like, okay, this sucks and this is ugly as shit. But of course it sucks. I never write like this. I never write with my left hand. I don't even hardly use my left hand. I really don't. Like, I use my right for everything. So in that moment, I was frustrated, I was irritated, but I gave myself that grace to understand that it's okay, that it wasn't perfect. So the next step was, and again, think about that for yourself. Like, what does it feel like for you? The next step is, what were your emotional feelings about it? Perhaps you were feeling impatient, judgmental, intrigued, embarrassed, fearful, or amused. So I wrote that I felt like I need to do that process more to help with muscle memory. Again, what happens if I break my arm and I can't use my right hand? I'm going to have to rely on my left hand. Yes, in the moment I will learn, but maybe it's something to think about, to challenge our brains. And again, as we get older, our brain matter deteriorates and we actually lose some of those cognitive functioning things. And it's good to challenge your brain. So if you always start walking with your right foot, or you always put your right leg on with your pants, try to start with your left leg. Like, do those different things to help your brain. But for me, I put in that moment around the emotional feelings that I felt like I need to do that process more to help with muscle memory. Like I said, I felt frustrated because I knew if I would have practiced, I would have done better. So again, knowing now that I could have done better. So the next question is, did you have the belief or expectation that your writing should appear of the same quality, even if your non-dominant hand had less experience? So again, kind of going back to the question about my thoughts while I was writing, I had given myself grace in the moment. I knew in that moment that I knew it wasn't going to be perfect. So for me, I did not expect that my handwriting was going to look the same as my right hand. Okay, so that's a very different expectation. So I said I do not. As mentioned above, I acknowledged that I should practice. So I acknowledged in the moment that I know that if I would have practiced writing with my left hand, that I will get better. I will eventually get better. So, and then it goes on to part 3, which is discussion and processing. So I'm going to read this really quickly. I know this is very like grade school, but it's such a cool process, and I really hope you do pay attention and try this for yourself. So both of your hands have access to the same brain, right? They both have access to the same brain, which possesses the knowledge of how to write and spell your name. You know how to write and spell your name. You have 2 different tools you can use to do that. Yet for the majority of people, there is a marked difference in the quality of handwriting, which reflects the significance of experience or practice. So you always write with your right hand. You have experience, you have practice. You do not do it with your left hand. You do not have either of those, and that's okay. So learning how to become an intuitive eater is it's a parallel process with what we just did. It's a lot like learning how to write with your non-dominant hand. And I would say this with any type of meal plan that you're looking into. When you're trying to do something that's uncomfortable, that feels unnatural, it can be embarrassing. It can be frustrating. It can be something that you're like, I know I can do better, so I'm going to keep practicing. But you might not have been in this long enough to have those thoughts. So your feelings might right now they just might be frustration, anger, irritation. You want to give up because it's not perfect. Don't get stuck in that, okay? So intellectual knowledge is not enough. So it's not enough for you to say, I know how to eat right. I know what to eat. I know when I should or shouldn't eat. That's all good and well. We all know how to write our names with our non-dominant hand, but when we do it, it doesn't look like we think it should look like. So don't beat yourself up. I say this to everybody. Don't beat yourself up. Give yourself that grace. So if you have not had much experience listening and responding to your body cues in a timely manner, it will take time, it will take patience, and it will take practice. Again, if you want to be a good writer, if you want to be a good eater, you have to practice. It doesn't happen overnight. You know, most of us are in our mid-20s to late 50s. Some of us are in our 60s. How many years have you been just not paying attention to what you're eating, or just like mindlessly eating? Like, I can't even tell you how many years I've done it because I don't really know, but I know I've done it a lot. So if you have spent years dieting and creating food rules, again, I just mentioned at the beginning, it's been a decade since I've been living this healthy life. So I've created a lot of rules for myself. Not eating bad foods during the week, only eating bad foods on Saturday. So it will take time to challenge and deconstruct those rules and beliefs, which can interfere with intuitive eating. So even if you haven't been a dieter for a long time, and maybe you've just been somebody who's like, every time I go out to eat, I'm going to get whatever I want. You should have that feeling with some parameters around that. So thinking about, like, I think horseshoes taste great. If you don't know what a horseshoe is, it is meat. It is a slice of bread. It is meat of your choice. So for me, I like to get the fried chicken. It's like a breaded grilled chicken. That doesn't make sense. Breaded chicken. It's chicken breast breaded. I like to get that with hot sauce. There's french fries on top, cheese sauce smothered in it. I get ranch on the side, hot sauce on the side. It is amazing, but it's literally a food coma. That for me tastes the best. Like if I could just pick anything that is like no calories, I would pick that every time because it tastes amazing. Makes me feel like shit. Makes me feel gross. It makes me feel tired. So being an intuitive eater is like, I know what I want that tastes good, but in the moment, I also want to think about how I'm going to feel about that. It's being mindful of your feelings and your emotions that are tied to the food. So instead of getting it all the time, maybe it's like, well, I will get it this time, but I think next time I'm going to get a salad, a grilled chicken salad or something a little healthier, just so that I feel better, so I don't feel like crap afterwards. But again, sometimes we have these things that play into it that we've been so rigid that you're like, I'm never going to allow myself to get the horseshoe when I go out because that's not part of my plan. So if you deprive yourself of those things, that can also spiral and lead you to another area, which is partly why I started this book, because I feel like sometimes I I don't feel like sometimes I do binge, I'll overeat. I can eat a bowl of cookie dough for dinner, not the whole thing because it makes me sick, but do you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm saying? So it says, reflect upon your eating experiences. Do you have much experience in paying attention to and honoring your body? I think that is the biggest takeaway here, is like listening to your body. So what I've been trying to do this week is, again, I'm a plate cleaner. My eyes are bigger than my stomach. I will get food based on my hunger in the moment. So usually I'm pretty hungry when I go to eat. I will fill a huge plate up, even if it's a salad. And what I've been trying to do this last week is I don't have to eat all that. I don't have to eat everything I put in my plate. And that is so hard coming from poverty because you're taught, when you don't have enough food, you eat what you get when you get it and you eat it all. And so it's such a childhood type of a system thought process. But my point is, think about those moments when you're eating. Like, how are you actually feeling? When you're like halfway through your plate, like take a step back, push away from the table and be like, how do I feel right now? Do I feel satisfied? Am I still hungry? Think about that. Like, literally sit in that moment with what you're doing and pay attention to your body. One of the biggest things I've been preaching on for years is the cue of when you are eating and you take a deep breath. So there's a moment when you're overfed and your body his reaction will tell you. You'll take a deep breath. You'll go. Most of the time, we dive back into eating because we don't pay attention to that body cue. So pay attention over the next couple weeks. Again, I'm not saying jump out and get this book. I'm saying just listen to yourself. You are smarter than you think you are. So again, what might that mean for you when you're honoring your body? What might that mean for you in terms of cultivating patience and compassion with the process? So for me, I said, I have a little bit of experience paying attention to my body cues again, listening to those deep breaths or listening to my body when I have those deep breaths. But without practice, I forget. So if I'm not reminding myself of those bodily cues or reminding myself to eat mindfully, I will forget. So knowing that I need to be more mindful about all of my interactions with food and patient while I relearn how to eat intuitively. So that's what I did today. This took maybe like 5 to 7 minutes for me to do. Obviously, it took me a lot longer to explain that to you, but I just want to share a little bit of what I'm doing with, trying to practice, trying to continue all the mindful eating that I already do, but being mindful in that I've had 3 pieces of cheesecake this week. I didn't have a whole piece of cheesecake because I didn't need a whole piece, but I had half because it's in the fridge and because I wanted to eat it in bed with my husband because it was amazing and it tastes really, really good. And the scale only went up by 0.4 this week. So I've just been paying a lot more attention to what I'm eating, how much I'm eating, how I'm feeling, if I'm actually hungry or if I'm thirsty. Like right now, I'm very, very thirsty. So again, it's just something to think about. Being mindful of your eating habits is literally going to change your life. It's going to change how you eat. It's going to change how you look at food. And so the mindset shift I've had this week and listening to this book is that I can eat whatever the fuck I want to eat. Like whatever I want to eat. Because again, I've put restrictions on that before, like even with drinking. I put the restriction, and it has to be Saturday for me to drink. Bullshit. Just don't drink every night. Because what happens is that you overindulge. So again, there's so much more in the book about it. I have taken up so much of your time. I hope you listened to this. I hope you found this helpful. But I'm just telling you that I'm on a mission to figure out why I do or don't do things. And this is just one of those steps to the puzzle of having freedom from stresses and overwhelm and making it easier and simpler. Do you know how much simpler it is this week that I haven't had to do certain things that I've forced myself to do the last couple of years? I'm going to throw this out there, like tracking. I'm not going to lie, I have not tracked my food this week, and it is like freeing. It's so freeing because we put all these rules onto foods and things that we do. So there's so much more this book talks about. I am not saying this is what you need to do. I'm just saying if you've been in the dieting space for a long time, just take a step back and breathe with me because it feels pretty good. So, all right, I'm going to let you guys go. Bye.